everybody. Welcome back. We are in the house, the PowerHouse, that is. You like that one?
I do. I like that. Good job.
Zach and Dan. Zach Shue, Dan Turbyville. Welcome
Hello.
back, all. Let's see. We're presented by a few of our company conglomerate.
We've got a few sponsors.
Right. Some Memphis Fence Company, one. Thanks for letting us use the space, Memphis Fence Company. Super gracious as always.
Yeah.
MFG or MFC Manufacturing. Thanks for the table, I guess.
Yeah.
Had something to do with that. And then Simpalo, maybe the Wi-Fi signal.
Thanks for the laptop. I mean, I don't know.
Right. These cool logos are all, inspired by these companies. And so it keeps us looking cool.
Yeah, those cool logos are all a headache. If you've never designed a logo, I can tell you it's a pain in the butt. It seems so simple, but it's so complicated.
I find it to be a bit easier when you're the only input, you know? And when you invite other people to discuss it with you, it gets...
Well, that's a good point. I always am like, hey, everyone, come look at this. Tell me what you think.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And I happen to be, I don't know if y'all have ever met me or listened to the show any, but I happen to be pretty opinionated on some specific matters. There are some things I don't mind too much about, but
yeah,
certain things.
Yeah, what are those things you don't care about?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say. Well, I'll expound on it a bit. Michael was talking to me about the origin of humanity, which sounds like a really big topic, but honestly, I'm pretty okay. Like, I don't really care how space got there. I think it's pretty awesome enough just to think that space is there.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, I don't need to know why.
We don't need to have that debate live on the air.
Right. I don't know that it has to be a debate. Like I said, I don't care. So whatever you think it is, that's cool too.
Yeah. Whatever I know it is.
That's fine. Like I said.
All right. Are we live?
We are live.
We are live. There's a phone number. 901-878.
And in the house. Live and in the house.
901-878-4987. I almost have that phone number memorized now.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That'll be good.
Yeah,
going forward.
That'll be great. I won't have to look at the screen and
I hope you start giving everyone you meet that number instead of your phone number.
They all go to the same place, so it doesn't really matter.
Cool. I think it's important to divulge that moments before the opening of the show, I was all but asleep.
Yeah. No, it's a true story. I was pretty concerned, and then we hit go live, and he just
what happened?
Switch. It's pretty impressive to see.
All right, what are we doing here, man? What do we got on tap for today?
First, let's say thank you, listeners. So we are wrapping up 2023. We had this crazy idea to start a podcast and talk about commercial fence and things in that world. And we've had some people listen and some people subscribe and some people who know us. And it's been cool for us. And hopefully it's been beneficial for some people that have listened to us. And maybe someone's actually learned a thing or two.
Yeah, so, the one guy that I met at the Fence show in Las Vegas that had heard the show and was familiar with,
which was only 3 weeks into us having this show.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. But I mean, just someone having been like, hey man, I know you from your show. And that was pretty cool.
Remember, that's where I met my first fan.
Yeah.
I thought. Turns out it actually wasn't, but that's okay.
Pretty cool though. Yeah, so thanks listeners. Thanks all who've participated, all the guests, the guys who come on our show and attract new viewers.
Right.
There's some people who have some existing podcasts, and it seems like when they come on, we get a spike. So I really appreciate
some people,
those guys showing us some love, Hey,
speaking of being known, we are officially going to be a part of the media team for the Picks and Picks and Pictures or something, the Fence Tech kickoff party.
That's cool. And now it's we. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That means I'm going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming too this time.
And look, you found out so far in advance.
I was the most awkward person at the kickoff party at Fence Show in Las Vegas. It's just called Fence Show, right? The show's called Fence Show,
I think,
which is
the Fence
confusing.
and Security Expo. I don't know, the FWA show.
But the logo just reads Fence Show.
Yeah, we don't know what any of that stuff is called. We're terrible at it.
I was at least the second most awkward person in the room. I was extremely tired.
Were you right behind me?
Yeah. No, there was this moment where you broke through and you were like doing social, whatever that is.
Yeah. It's weird. It happens every now and then, but it is a strange thing.
Right. The show, like the arena, the actual show, I did pretty good. But when it came to like it's night and there's strange music and booze comes out, I'm like, I don't know this environment well.
Yeah.
Or what to do now. Like, I guess it's like the businessy or like the quote unquote professional character works, but the casual, I don't have one.
Right. Well, at the at Tony Thornton's Fence Business Conference, I think, I was up with those guys until like 4:00 in the morning, just being all kinds of social.
Well, luckily,
sober social.
Here's actually. Cool. So Picks and Pictures, I think is what it's called. I'll get to.
We don't even know
if we're in fact on the media crew team list or whatever, then we'll get to be media people at least.
Yeah.
I don't do like small talk. So at the show, it's easy to talk about fence and metalwork and podcasting and that stuff. But
this thing just says P and P. Well, I know it's P and P, but I don't know what that
stands for. Podcasters Preview. P and P.
Okay.
I think it's Picks and Pictures. Pictures and Picks.
Yeah, it definitely has picks. It was pickets and pictures before, but this time it has picks in it because it's in Nashville, I guess.
So it's like drink some beer and there's guitars because it's Nashville.
Yeah. So, hey, everyone, go to the party and go autograph our guitar.
Oh, yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah. So there's I don't exactly understand it, but we did this sponsorship deal at the party where I guess there's going to be a wall of guitars and people can autograph your guitars. And then we'll have a guitar that has like our logos that's all autographed up and everything. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it, but.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. All right. So let us know what you want us to talk about. We have a whole year coming up. We've got 52 episodes. I don't know.
Hold the phone.
Christmas.
Stop everything. I want to thank Ilaria.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Because we thanked all the listeners, but she's holds
the one.
It down.
She has to listen and push
the
buttons
honestly,
and not sleep.
She afforded us some measure of comfortability to go down this path. Because we trusted her quite a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe more than we should have.
Right.
Just kidding. But yeah, so I mean, I think her being here has been kind of what was needed to be like, turn this thing to a reality.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's worked out.
And where would our Learn Italian segment be without Ilaria? We wouldn't have one.
I didn't even include that in this agenda this week.
What?
I know.
I'm going for ice cream in coffee.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's delicious. Have you ever had that?
No, but you talked about that already.
It's really good.
What was
Not
it
on
called?
the podcast. I talked to her off camera.
What was it called?
Affogato.
Affogato.
No, it's affogato.
Oh, I forgot. I have to talk lazy. Affogato.
See, you can do it though.
It's so weird. You just have to like relax your whole face.
Open your mouth all the way.
Affogato.
And you also got the T right, which is pretty cool.
See, I've learned the secret. All right, so at least 50 episodes next year. Let us know what you wanted to hear us talk about. And if you want to be on the show, let us know.
If you don't, we'll just start over from the beginning of this year and go back through.
Right, we're going to do it all over again.
We should do it in reverse.
Oh my goodness. Your laugh in the mic is
I'm sorry, that was just rough. For you.
All All right. So what are we going to talk about this time, Zach?
What are we going to talk about? We're doing some reviews from our previous episodes. We're going to recap some topics from earlier in the year.
Yeah.
That's what I got. I don't know.
Yep.
Some of which being cash flow, I think, is on there on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah. So we're just going to go back through some of the things that I decided were important for you to know. I don't know what that's worth, but
I think it might be cool to use the email that we got right before the show. We'll exclude the names of the people and kind of touch on that request because it does pertain to some of the heavy hitter topics that we got into. What do you think? Is that too impromptu for you or too from the hip?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
unless you want to talk a minute and let me read it.
Yeah, I've been working on we're getting ready for a trade show for Fence Tech 2024. We've talked about the after party and the thing that we're going to be doing representing the part of the media team. That invitation is pretty cool. It was extended to Dan, but I go where Dan goes. So that's how that works.
I told him, I said, Zach's a part of the team and I'm not doing it without him.
Which I wouldn't expect it otherwise. I'm just goofing off. So what I've been doing for this, which is preparing this kind of a mobile booth, basically. So I'm building a gigantic steel pallet. Then I will weld a kind of an accordion-like or hinged casing that opens up that becomes our trade show booth. We saw something
it's a portable
like
wall.
it. Yeah, portable wall on a pallet that we're also going to integrate a desk into. And so today personally, I've been over there starting. I think what I've got now, I could show one of our guys and say, these are the next steps. I want it to look like this.
That's good.
So
although you smell of metal now,
but you know, it's my first love, man.
It's your
or my only
fragrance.
Or my only love. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure what I like more, fabrication or playing guitar.
Right.
Which I like a lot.
Yeah.
As far as hobbies are concerned. Of course, I really enjoy hanging out with my children. But
all right. So here's the text message. It was a group text, and the sender says, "Hey Dan, meet anonymous. They were just awarded first commercial contract. It's due in September, and figured that you and might be a good resource to make sure any contingency for price increases or changes are written into the contract." That's a tough one.
My first thought is the stored material.
Yeah, so that's definitely what I would suggest. And what I will suggest to this person is order them, get your submittals done. We talked about that in the submittal episode. You want to get them done quick, right? Get your contract done, your certificate of insurance, your submittals, all of that. And then once the submittals are approved, order the material and bill for stored materials right then. Right. And if the customer refuses to pay for stored material, that gives you a leg to stand on 6 months down the road when they are say, okay, now order it. Then you can say, well, look, I tried to order the material. The cost has gone up. Sorry. I tried to order the material. The cost is up. And here we are. I need a change order. But those contracts are going to have everything in them to protect the owner and the contractor over you.
We've talked about that. I don't want to be liable.
Nope.
You know, I don't want to be liable for our subcontractors, but to an extent we have to be. Yep. Well, so all the way, not just to an extent.
If you were to write a contract, you would protect yourself the same as them. I'm not throwing stones. I'm just saying, like, realistically, that's a tough thing. And sometimes you get burned, and sometimes that's just the price of playing the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think the immediate response to that is how to cover because ultimately, what are you thinking about? There's only really going to be a rise in, I don't know that, man, fractional rise in the cost of labor, or, say your subcontractor that you bid the job with drops out and you got to hire someone else who's 20% higher.
You're not doing nothing about that. That's on you.
Right. So you can't protect yourself against that. So really do we have?
Well, you could protect yourself against that if you required that your subs have a bid bond,
Right.
right? But that's not feasible. No fence sub is going to get a bid bond to bid a job. I mean, maybe if it's a, couple $1 million job or something, that may be a different story. But for your run of the mill fence job, nobody's doing that.
Right.
And I mean, that's on you. It sucks, but I don't know. And it depends on the customer. There's two different, well, a lot of different types of people, but some people are really understanding and will work with you and be like, hey, this is what we can do to try to help you out. You just got to have an open conversation with them when something like that happens and say, man, is there anything you can do?
Yes, maybe they'll buy the material.
Yep.
And then there you don't have to worry about the prospective 20 to 30% increase in material over the next 8 months.
Yep. Well, so steel typically is, 5% a year, something like that. But what we've seen over the past few years has been really, it's not
Dude.
unprecedented because it did happen in the early 70s.
But 2018 was
it's
outrageous.
been a long time.
And I'm prepared to see that. I don't know to that extent. It was almost 100% increase.
No, it wasn't 18. It was more like 21. But I think there was a 350% increase in the cost of hot rolled band. So steel went mad for sure. Lumber did too. A lot of people know about lumber, but steel also did the same thing.
Which is interesting. I guess a lot of that still is reflective of the labor market.
Well, your average person is probably more likely to buy a house than they are to buy something that requires a large quantity of steel. So, anyways, so moving on. That's a whole thing, right? And we have this list to get through. So, sorry to
well, and I think the goal is kind of to bounce through
Yep.
briefly to some of these things. Thank you for entertaining that. I saw the email or the text and I thought this is a cool.
Yeah, this was like 10 minutes before we went live. So
it's a cool thing to talk about.
So yeah, we're just gonna kind of touch on some of this stuff. Like I know we've talked about some of those type of things in the contract documents episodes. There was 2 of them. The second one was mainly submittals, but the first one we probably talked about that type of stuff a little bit, I'm guessing. So we missed a bid, a really nice job, and it was because it came down to the last minute. I was kind of entering into like a joint venture deal, and there had been some mention of this job, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, let's bid this job, and there wasn't enough time to get a bid bond. Right. So it was a pretty significant project, and I can get smaller bid bonds in a couple hours, right? And I mean like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in a couple hours. But if you get into,
million plus,
yeah, you get $1-2 million bid bonds, and those take a little bit of time. There's more of an application process you have to go through and everything else. So
I like that they were at least like gave you a prompt response on not going to happen.
Yep. So there was a few emails exchanged back and forth between me and the our bond guy that we use. And
I wish they had a much cooler name than bond guy. Like it should be like the
bondsman.
That's good, but I'm thinking, like
the bid bondsman, not the bail bondsman.
Because I'm imagining you had to like trek through like the countryside to Mordor and go to like right.
That's what I did last night.
That's why you stayed up so late.
Yeah, I went and threw away the ring. Yeah. Yeah. So I told Zach I stayed up all night playing video games like I was 16 or something. It was kind of not my proudest moment, but things happen. So yeah, missed out on that because we waited to the last minute, and then the bond couldn't be done. So when you get into jobs that have other people involved and more moving pieces, and it's the week of Christmas and things like that, you want to give yourself plenty of time. So we talked about Zach's been working on the trade show crate wall box thing, whatever we're calling it. And
yeah, it's a feat of fabrication. It's pretty cool.
There's multiple people right now who are working pretty diligently to get ready for Fence Tech. It's only
You mean within the company?
yes
In our
yes,
organization?
yes.
Who are those people?
Look,
Oh, sorry.
yeah,
I'm
Ilaria
just kidding.
today. I just said, "Here, can you do this, please?" And she did it.
I got your business card done. They're coming here.
Yeah, yeah.
Mine?
Yeah.
So we actually got paper business cards for the first time. You know,
Yeah, the link thing was so cool. Such a fantastic concept, but
Well-
the time it took to teach people how to use it
so
seemed like it took
now,
away from the convenience.
now what we did was we just put that QR code on the business card so we can send it with them and they can figure it out in their own time.
Yeah, it's in the back. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the front of the card has, multi-branded crazy logo stuff, and then the back of the card has a headshot, a name, and a QR code. So it's
Good luck.
it's kind of a combination deal.
Our biggest fan just left that as a comment.
Oh no. Oh, we have to say something. We can't just sit in silence. The Ornamental Wizard's creation, my name for the crate.
Thank you, Donnie.
Because you want to be the ornamental wizard.
I am the ornamental wizard.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. We missed that.
I don't remember the deal we made, but I'm pretty sure I held up my end. So
Okay. I don't know. Was it an ongoing?
I don't.
'Cause
I
was
really
like
don't remember.
your sales goal within a 30-day period.
Or a quarter or something.
Yeah. Did it just go on forever? And it just became like,
Well, I think
30,
if we were to
60,
do the
90?
average of the year, then
Oh, you could find a 30-day period where you hit that goal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
or the quarter,
Right.
because I think it was only like $250,000 in a quarter,
Yeah.
which done.
Right.
I think crown me ornamental wizard.
All right. All right. All right.
Just kidding.
So
All right.
we'll be at Fence Tech. We already talked about we're going to the kickoff party, whatever that thing is called. And we have a booth, 2449, which is going to have the wall box crate thing in it. So come by, see us. We have some stuff we're going to give away. And
We're also doing giveaways.
What?
We're giving away stuff.
So we're giving away stuff
And
and doing giveaways.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Is it too soon to let them know what the giveaways are?
Yes.
It's a major prize.
A major prize.
Huge.
Yeah.
A major prize.
Come by for your chance.
Come by
to
for
win
for
a
chance
major
to
prize.
right.
All right. So
Come by at a time.
So I'd like to make some commitments for 2024. I already did one of these in the last episode, I think, but this is kind of cool. So listeners, you will hear more about bidding commercial work. Right? That's our thing.
That's kind of the objective.
Yep, that's our thing. That's what we're doing. And
We told them that on episode 1.
We did. But who knows if they were listening or remember. That's been a long time ago. What's going on? Oh,
I'm just reading comments.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to hear more about bidding commercial work. We had to go through some things that I felt like you need to know before we could talk about bidding the jobs, right? There's a lot more to everybody wants to just jump straight to how do you bid a job? How do you find a job? How do I get a job? Like, well, you need to understand what you're getting, right? It'd be like, hey, how do I find a tiger? Oh, there's one over there in the bush. You just run in and tackle it.
I was just thinking puppy.
Yeah. Right. So you got to understand.
You start with a house plant. Everyone knows that.
A puppy is fine too, because if you didn't know what it takes to raise a puppy, then that's a good thing too. All right. So the commitment I've already made before was that we're gonna have a process manual, right? And I don't know how much is gonna be in there, but as much as possible. And I feel like that's going to be an ever evolving thing, because once we add 40 processes, it's going to be like, oh, well, what do we do here? What do we do there? And, there's just going to be that constant evolution. So that will be one thing that I do accomplish in 2024. And I want us to be able to work in. You okay? You hot? I want us to be able to work in at least 4 more states in 2024.
What are those states?
I don't know. I didn't think about that. I just put 4.
Okay.
We're I know Alyssa's been putting in some work for Missouri.
What about Illinois? What about
Uh,
Chicago?
so Illinois, I don't think has contractor's license. Missouri does not have contractor's licenses, but you have to get something in like all the municipalities of Missouri, something like that. I don't know. She knows about the rules. I don't really, but and then I want to spend some time and some thought on this whole deliver wow concept. I think that's pretty cool. And I think we could do that in every step of our process. And I think that's a very powerful 2 words right there. What about you? Do you have any quick commitments for 2024 you'd like to throw out there to the world?
No, I'm with those. Those are our mutual commitments, I think. And
Okay.
I don't know that to add anything to that would do much for us. I like I'm a big proponent, or I'm excited, honestly, about a process manual. I kind of
You've talked about that like from the beginning off and on.
I started one, I think, here once before, where I was doing I was building some of the parts that we make in house. I was making shop drawings, and then a steps 1, 2, and 3 kind of thing. I don't really remember what happened. And then over the course of my time here, if there was a machine that needed repair, I would document that in some way, and then build these diagrams and notebooks. And
I remember having like all the owner's manuals and diagrams and stuff like that for a few of the machines back then. But
so that's one thing. But I mean, there's a lot of process for us to designate or develop. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming that the employee manual or handbook has been updated since 1971 or whatever. But
oh yeah,
but as far as a lot of like processes, practices within the company, we kind of just been winging it.
well, so we do have a pretty big policy manual,
Right.
right? It's got a lot of stuff in there, but those are policies. Policies and processes are 2 different things.
Right. Exactly.
And we have some processes documented in Trainual. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So we have some stuff in Trainual, but man, it sucks so bad putting stuff in there. Not that it's, there's not that it's not user friendly or anything like that. It's just a crap process to sit there and type out every single little step and put screenshots and all of this other stuff. And it just sucks having to do. So, all right. So let's try to get through these things. We got 30 minutes. So we had an episode called Cash is King that was back pretty early on. And in that one, we talked about just make sure you have the cash available to you in order to finance jobs. Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have money in the bank. I think that definitely money in the bank is a good one, but a line of credit, you can set up job accounts with vendors. Some of them will do that. You can have assets that you could get loans against, or, maybe you, uh, uh, maybe you could look into doing like a factoring type of setup. I personally have never done it, wouldn't really suggest it, but I mean, that does exist. So there's other options out there for you to be able to get financing. And there are people that do that. Like, I don't even know. They're not like, I know one guy that'll do it. He's not a financial institution, but he has a lot of money and he'll give you a loan, but it's a really high interest rate. And he's not like a loan shark, right? It's not like that, but it's I don't even know what you would call what this guy does, to be honest with you. But anyways, you want to have cash available to finance a job.
So we talked a bit about that on the episode titled Cash is King. We also got into that with our banker.
Yeah.
On the show with
options about how to get some cash and things like that.
Right. And the things that he made some suggestions, and then also went into kind of a brief list of things that you could use as collateral.
Yep.
There's like 3 C's, I guess, which is collateral being one, cash being the other. This is what a banker told me once when we were talking about this lines of credit and things that they would look for small to medium business loans. But either way, I can't remember now what he said, but it was like a handy thing that I've
It was
now
a handy
since forgot.
thing that you can't remember.
But collateral being one,
Yep.
obviously, and
Well,
cash being the other. So there's 2 out of 3. I think we're getting pretty close.
Yeah, so you got to have collateral for anything, right? And normally you can get a loan for 80% of the value or a purchase price in some situations. So they call that LTVs. That's why a traditional mortgage, you have to put a down payment on the house because they'll only finance a certain percentage of purchases. So, but yeah, you got to have collateral, some sort of collateral. And in factoring, you're using your receivables as collateral. Again, I don't know much about it. I've never done it, but that's just another option that's out there. So the next thing, be patient. Right. So don't go and bite off a job that's too big for you to handle. And that can mean multiple different things, right? Don't agree to complete a project that you're not really capable of completing. So that's one thing. So look at the scope of the work and make sure that you're okay with doing all of it. And then also the money part of it, right? So I actually Donnie was listening to one of our episodes earlier, and I was talking about this exact same thing in that episode. So it's kind of weird, but it's always exciting to go out and sell a big job, right? But if you can't do a big job, then don't sell a big job. So remember, if you're doing $100,000 job, like what's your cost in it, right? If you're making 10%, then you got $90,000 invested in that job. You only get to bill once a month.
Mm-hmm.
So you're billing, somewhere between like the 20th and the 26th, somewhere in that neighborhood typically. And it's going to take you at least 45 days to get paid. And then you mess something up, your bill is going to get kicked back until the following month. So just
yeah, if you miss it by a day, then
oh yeah, you miss it by a day, it's going in next month bill. Yeah, for sure. So that's another kind of to tie that back in with the contract documents. It's important to know what's in your contract documents for your billing requirements. That way you get that stuff right when you submit it. You don't want to wait till the last minute, submit some stuff and it be wrong, and then you find out 2 weeks later that your bill was held until the next month. So that can definitely be detrimental to your cash flow there. So you can bill for stored materials typically, as we talked about earlier, impromptuly, whatever. So that it's more common now that we'll have to pay for the material before we can bill for it. And so the contractor will have a waiver that our supplier will have to sign. We'll have to send them the invoice, the proof of payment, and then have the supplier sign that waiver saying that they have received payment for it. So that's a lot more typical now, it seems, than it used to be. Before, you could play the game a little bit better and you could time it a little better, where you might have the material on the yard, you may have been billed for it, but you haven't paid for it yet, and you could go ahead and bill, and that would, cut down the time that you were out the money for the material and stuff. But it
we
seems
did something like that once.
That's
I've done something like that.
It's a little harder to do now than it used to be, it seems. So some contractors will issue joint checks for the material.
Right.
I actually saw that in a contract that I was reading through the other day, and I learned about that the first time earlier this year when someone asked me, and I had no idea. I was like, I'm not sure. It's not really something that I'm familiar with, but I do know some contractors out there will do it. Don't know how it works. I don't know if your supplier has to sell the material to them instead of selling it to you. I don't know. In any of those situations, the contractor you're working for is going to know how much you pay for the material. Right. And
which, I mean, that's one thing we've talked about. When you get into these commercial jobs, it's like, be prepared to be transparent.
Mhm.
I think our first episode, we said the word transparent 30 times or so. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about the spirit of our show, and then, that trying to hold your cards close to your chest thing. You basically got to just get ready to be just honest, because people are going to want to break out of labor and materials. And then obviously, we do that.
Well,
We satisfy that request quite frequently.
sometimes people want it, but sometimes it just happens by way of the way the job is structured.
Right.
Right. So if you're going to bill for stored materials, well, there's your there's your material amount. And then if you have certified payrolls on the job that you have to turn in, well, there's your payroll amount. So now they know how much you paid in material and how much you paid in labor. I mean, it's not that hard for them to figure out how your job is broken down. And I personally have never had anyone say, "What? You only paid that much for material and you charged me that much to install the job?"
Right.
Like, I've never experienced that.
I've been in a situation where the contractor was aware of the percentage we marked the material up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so just get used to being honest. I mean, that's the way. I think that's kind of a juvenile statement to make, or it seems that kind of kindergarten here. But if you're worried about someone finding out how much you're marking up the material, then you might be marking up too much, and do like a average markup and just be
you're ashamed of what you're doing.
Be prepared to be transparent.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. So retainage too. I didn't put that in my notes here, but retainage, or I think some people call it like holdback or something like that.
And there's a legal limit.
Yep.
And that goes state by state, which Tennessee's 5%.
Tennessee only allows 5. Right. I know Mississippi, you can still do 10.
And what is the length of time? Is there a length of time?
Indefinite?
It's basically until they're satisfied.
Yep.
And so, as I understand, since we're not as not to villainize the contractors, because that's not been my experience.
No.
Right? They're not villains. They're not anyone we have to hide the truth from or lie to. In fact, ultimately, if you can get down, for me at least, get down to the idea that we're each here trying to do something which is ultimately satisfy our customer with the best possible end result for the job.
We're working on the same team.
Right.
Yeah.
So this ultimately is their 5% to ensure that you complete the punch list.
Well, not even you, but that everyone completes it.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's what's crazy to me. It's kind of weird how it works, is that they'll hold the 5% retainage from everyone on the whole project until the plumber goes back and fixes a drain that doesn't work. And I mean, I personally have been in situations like that where retainage is held up for months or a year or more because there's some kind of problem with the job, and they're struggling trying to get somebody to come back and wrap something up.
I love this. We've kind of talked. I love how our conversations end up organic in this way. But one of your next bullet points is don't lie to get a job.
Yeah,
and we've already went there.
Yeah,
it's like don't
lie to get a job. Be realistic with yourself and with your clients, your customer, whoever that is.
Right.
So in our episode of scheduling pains, there's good and bad stories, right? We've talked about how we're not trying to make this overly complicated. We're not trying to make anyone look like the villain. We're all on the same team. We're all trying to accomplish the same task, but you need to know what you're getting into, right? And so there's good and bad stories. Typically the bad stories are more entertaining to tell, right? More entertaining to hear. So you hear a lot more bad stories, I think, than you do good ones. But
I got a bad story.
Okay.
It's not that bad actually, but basically, so you're familiar with this police job it started as your job, and then since I've hired on, I've kind of taken over as project manager basically on that. And there is no schedule that I'm aware of. I've never seen anything in the contract that says anything about a schedule issued to us by the contractor, nor did we in turn issue them a schedule. And so basically the superintendent calls me a couple of days in advance and says, no hurry, but can you come out here in 3 days or so? Set some posts. Sorry if I'm doing an impression. I didn't mean, but he does kind of sound like that. Either
it wasn't
super
even
nice,
like a very good one. It was a very subtle.
Well, because I got into it and I was like, I like this guy, and I don't know how people feel about impressions. Right. So it's like, should I do them or not do them? I don't mean any. There's no ill intent. Right. In fact, he's enjoyable to work with, but our schedule looks a lot like, hey Zach, it's Monday. Doesn't have to be this Monday. Doesn't have to be next Monday. But could you come out and set a few more posts in this footer before we pour the concrete?
Right.
So is that? If I were in the perception that this person is the villain, as I've talked about before, I could easily kind of bristle with some antagonism and be like, hey, goddamn, I'm busy. I can't get out there. And what do you think you're doing?
Right. But we're gonna come out here and set 2 posts at a time. What's wrong with you?
But we are.
Yep.
I mean, and honestly,
Well,
it's been kind of cool.
but we're only doing that because it's in the gates.
Well, it's in a footer.
Yeah, so there's V-track gates, and the post are going in the footing that the V-track will be
But when
mounted to
we're
the
out
top
there,
of.
we're actually, I sent them with a pallet full of posts. I
Yeah.
said, I don't care how, I mean, set the 2 that he wants and then ask him where you can start setting and continue a full day.
Right.
Obviously, we know that efficiency is important and setting 2 posts sucks for drive time and all that. But also, my team does not like to start and stop and start and stop and start and stop.
No, no one does.
So,
yeah,
some of that's part of the game. But yeah, so horror story. I think there's some more scheduling stuff that I got going on right now we could discuss, but I don't think it's really
yep.
necessary.
And
so.
we have we got a few more things
Well,
to
let's
get back
keep on
through here,
rolling.
so.
Speaking of scheduling,
Yeah, right. So when you get bid documents, there typically will be a schedule in there. Well, I won't say typically. A lot of times there's a schedule, a lot of times there's not. So it kind of just depends. But be aware if there is a schedule in there, so you know completion dates of the job, when they have you scheduled to be there, and things like that. You don't want to get into a job and look at it, and it's going to take your crew 2 months to do the job, and they've only got you scheduled on there for 2 weeks. Right. So it's just kind of something to be aware of and have a conversation about pretty early on, if that is the case.
well, and I think also throughout the project, it's important to observe if there's something that's going on. Say, one of the jobs, the dirt work didn't get done like until 2 weeks before the end of the project date, and so I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but to say designate to either the project manager or follow the chain of command. Obviously, start with the superintendent and then get up to project manager if you need to, and say, hey man, it's 2 weeks. This fence, we told you guys it'd take 6 to 8 to fabricate.
So that's an interesting point. If you don't include a schedule with your submittals, then how are they to know how long it's going to take?
Right.
So
A lot of mine recently, I'm doing commercial jobs, but they're medium. I would call them medium sized, or even small to medium commercial jobs.
Right.
And so that has been between me and a project manager, and sometimes the superintendent is copied, which is a fun game of telephone to play. But a lot of my designating a schedule to them has been by way of email, so that at least there is some documentation.
Yep.
And that's been one of the things that you've impressed on me is like, if you have a conversation on the job site with a superintendent, send it in a text message, or better yet, when you get back to the office, just, hey, John, per our conversation, 6 weeks longer for fence fabrication, or whatever the conversation was.
Yep. That protects everyone. So that's you covering your own butt, but then it's also giving them something that they can look at and say, how long did he say it was going to take?
Right. Well, and also they have bosses too that need to be in the loop, or sometimes the customer is like, hey, what was said or whatever. So,
well, and just, if you tell them 6 and then 9 weeks later, you're still not done, then that's going to be another conversation too.
Sure.
So,
well, so this specific one, the dirt work, we addressed that, hey, the dirt work's just starting. So there's no way I'm going to be able to meet the initial deadline that we talked about. So, or designate that it means 6 weeks from the day we set posts, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to have that communication as early as you can.
Right.
Right. And like I said, I think with your submittals, I think it would be good practice to include a tentative schedule and say, basically from the time we start this part until we're done with this part is going to be this long. And, you might break it up into phases or something like that, and kind of just let them know how long the job's going to take, so they know how to schedule you. I mean, they don't want to get to the end of the job and have a week left and it's going to take 3 months. Like, they don't want that. So if we can,
and to just say, well, they never asked, that's not a very good way to have a former ongoing work relationship.
That's right. That's right. So
I think this falls into the deliver wow topic. I mean, these are things that we're looking at preemptively, or have some foresight to discuss with maybe the project manager. Maybe it's their first project.
Yep.
So as fence professionals, or being professionals in our trade, maybe we should extend that knowledge to the, I mean, honestly, I go on jobs. I'm pretty young. I consider myself to be pretty young, I guess. And I'm meeting superintendents and project managers who are by appearances significantly younger than me.
Right.
So it stands to reason
that'll probably happen more and more as you go through life.
I would imagine so, but you know what I mean, though.
Yep.
My case in point, it stands to reason that they probably don't have as much experience.
Yep. I used to be pretty confident that anywhere I went, I was the youngest person that was going to be there, in this world. But as I get older, everyone else seems to get a little younger. So it's weird.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So ironically enough, in that scheduling pains episode, I told a story about a guy who was like some assistant project manager or something like that. And I'm pretty sure he was just kind of like thrown into a position he had never been in before. It was his first project. And I'm pretty sure that he didn't make it to the end of the project with the general contractor company, but it was not very good. So, liquidated damages are a thing. So this is another reason to look at the schedule whenever you're going to bid a job and when you're getting, into the contract and stuff like that. Liquidated damages are basically your penalty for being late.
Right.
And there's probably some definition, something along the lines of it's costing the owner this much money in lost revenue or additional expenses or, something like that. And, there also is the other piece of that where now the general contractor has to keep a superintendent on site and keep porta potties on site and an office trailer on site,
security or site fence or any of these things that go into
and they
the
will
job.
bill you for that stuff above and beyond the liquidated damages. So just be aware of that. But anyways, these damages, I mean, sometimes you might see them that are $50 a day, and sometimes you might see them that are $10,000 a day,
which is extreme.
Yep.
But is that one case that you've seen the 10,000 a day?
Nope.
Yeah, but that's not even the crazy one, right? What was the crazy one?
The crazy one was it was a bridge, a 4-lane bridge, and the penalty was $1,250 per lane per hour.
Right. So that's a lot.
Yeah. And it was a 24-hour day, not like per
8-hour operating day or main traffic or school hours or whatever.
No. So, here we go. Communicate with the contractor. Communication is a big thing, and you want to be ready when they are. You don't want to find yourself in the situation where they call you and you're like, oh, well, sorry, we're on another job 17 states away and it's going to take us 4 months before we're done there. That gets to be a messy situation. So, and it's difficult. It's not easy, but the best way you can try to mitigate that is to try to communicate. And it always seems to be a situation where feast or famine, or when it rains, it pours, or, whatever saying you want to put along with that, where you sell 3 jobs and they're going to want you on all 3 of them at the same time. It seems to be that happens a lot. So
I have that. And I just said, which one do you want me to do first?
Well, but there's 3 different customers.
Oh, this is the same customer. I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah.
Same contractor.
That works pretty well.
Same contract, same customer.
Yeah. That's a different scenario. Right.
We can't be at the same. Yeah, that's part of when we get into these leapfrog scenarios, as I like to call it, in the shop where we got 3 jobs half done. It's because that's part of the process.
Yep.
Well, and also we got a set post to be able to build, and I got guys who got to be out in the field setting posts. So yeah, it's that's some fun stuff.
So we've had a banker on here, had an insurance agent on here. We've had a vendor on here.
Kurt.
Yeah.
Insurance agent
Charlie.
And I missed the vendor, which was Brad.
Yep.
I missed that one, which I would have liked to hear his feedback on. I should watch the episode, I guess.
It exists out there on the internet.
Yeah. So
in podcast land.
I'm interested in the feedback from vendors on how to better form a vendor relationship, because it's easy for me to designate what I want from somebody, right?
Yep. So we've recently entered into a relationship with maybe we're testing the waters. We're getting some quotes from another vendor. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, you never know until you try, right? So it was somebody that I met at Tony Thornton's Fence Business Conference, and one of their sales reps, we've gotten we're working on getting some quotes from them just to kind of feel them out and see how it goes. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But the main thing from all of those, I would say, is have somebody that you can call, right? Somebody you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is Dan and blah, 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 blah. Right. Instead of like those especially with your banking and insurance and stuff like that. I mean, it's so easy nowadays to just do that stuff through the internet, and all you're doing is talking to a computer.
Right.
And if you ever do have to call, you're going to get someone who's, you know, $8 an hour in another country, and they're going to want to know what your account number is and all of this type stuff. So I think it's important to have somebody you can pick up the phone and you can talk to and you can have some sort of relationship with.
I mean, obviously, I agree with you that the banker and insurance is really important on that level, but the relationship that I have specifically with my steel vendor is such that I don't even have to really designate wall thickness.
Yeah.
Or I just tell them one dimension, and they are so accustomed to the material that we use regularly that he can pretty much fill out the rest.
Yep. Well, so that's what you deal with the vendors.
Right.
Right. You don't deal with the banker or the insurance folks.
That's
so I mean,
exactly right.
it's the same kind of thing, right?
But, I mean, I could order steel from online Metal Depot or whatever the heck.
Yep.
And not have that. And I'd
Yep.
have to each time designate that I got the right size thickness. I've changed, not changed, but I'm shopping aluminum vendors.
Mhm.
And the transition to get with the sales rep that they know the sizes and dimensions has been, I wouldn't necessarily say painstaking, but definitely it's taken some attention to detail.
Right.
So that is just, foregoing that 5 to 10 year relationship with the previous vendor. There's some hiccups in the beginning, kind of.
So, I use the same steel rep, I bet, for probably 12 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is exactly like you're saying. They know what we use.
Right. To the extent that if I mistype something, they will ask me if this is right.
Yep.
It's just what you really want.
They know what we use. They know what we expect, like as far as, quality and cleanliness and how it's packaged and everything else. And, that's just kind of something that you build over time, and there's going to be mistakes. So you don't want to just dismiss somebody the first time they make a mistake, I guess, but
not of paramount importance, but it still is pretty good to have that relationship where you can call.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the thing. And remember that they are a part of the team, right? You can't install a fence if you can't buy the material.
Right.
So you can't give someone a certificate of insurance if you can't get it. Like they're a part of your team and they help you do what you do. So just remember that. All right. So final one that we wanted to kind of recap on a little bit, and we have 7 minutes until we hit that hour mark, is the payroll and taxes with Alyssa. We did 2 parts of this, and Donnie today was complaining that it was just not very interesting to him. And so I'm going to try to.
You're going to make it more interesting?
No, I'm going to try to make this short so nobody falls asleep and hits a tree. So first and foremost, understand the difference between someone who receives a 1099 and a W-2. There still is confusion out there about this. And so it's what is that Dunning-Kruger effect? Again, I think it's just the awareness of knowing what you know and what you don't know, right? And it's okay to not know things. So anyways, understand the difference. There's a lot of information available out there. There are IRS publications and rules and everything else that I would say do at least a decent job of explaining it. And there are tax professionals who would be willing to help you as well if you do have questions. We talked about this a little bit already, but certified payroll. So that's basically a weekly report that's going to show what you paid everyone. It's going to have, normally you'll see in the specs when you're bidding a job, it'll have at least an hourly rate. A lot of them have an hourly rate plus fringe benefits. And those you can use like paid vacation, holidays, insurance, 401k, things of those nature are fringe benefits and go into that. But so you have to show evidence that you paid people the minimum that the owner typically requires on a project. There can be auditors that are going around the site and like talking to people out there, making sure that they're getting paid what they're supposed to be paid, and the rates can be posted on the job site for everyone to see. So you're just again, try to cut down what you're trying to cheat on, I guess, is a safe thing to say.
Well, and
maybe.
this is just another one of those things to be vigilant of in the initial contract process.
Yep.
Is
Or
this a
actually,
certified payroll job?
actually in the bidding process, right? You need to know, does it have a Buy American Act or something like Buy America Act, right? Does it all have to be domestic material?
Wouldn't that suck? If you end up, oops, I didn't know, and I had to spend 50% more on material than I thought I was going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 50% more on labor.
Yeah. Right. Oh, some of them are mad. Some of them, like,
I'm mad.
I thought you meant in the comment. I was like, where?
no.
I'm mad.
Nah, like Davis Bacon is kind of behind the times, really, right? It's at least in our area, those rates. I look at them, but I mean, we're paying more than what those things are calling for anyway. But you get some of them like with different municipalities and stuff like that, and I mean, they'll have some crazy rates on there. People that are supposed to be getting paid $45 and $50 an hour and stuff like that, and so you definitely want to be aware of that. And then the domestic stuff. And I mean, the specs in general, the whole, fence spec section is one thing, but like the other parts of the specs, like the
Right.
domestic and the wage rates and the schedule and all. I mean, if you get into a job and you didn't plan on paying any overtime, and then now all of a sudden you're working 7 days a week on a job to get it done in the time frame they told you, like that overtime will eat you up too. So payroll taxes are a thing. I'm not going to talk about that much, but there are some tax professionals that could help you out with that. And then,
Not your wife.
right? She is. I mean, she went to school for
She's smart.
accounting and all
She's
of that
awesome.
stuff.
She's a
but
fantastic member of the team, but don't call her for professional tax help.
I am not offering her to
Right.
answer your tax questions. What was this?
Sorry for anyone that missed the episode. She all but extended herself as that, and I just want to
And I nearly had a stroke.
retract that statement or clear up that we are not offering that as a service here from the show, and that's
Right.
not a thing. So
Yeah, I mean, we're open to have conversations.
that's it.
But we're not tax professionals, right?
I'm
So
not even close. I'll tell you that much right now.
I still think I like my tea in the harbor. So that's my favorite joke that everyone else in the room hates. And your states are going to have some taxes too. Some of them have gross receipts tax, the state of Mississippi, and there's like, I don't know, 10 different or not qualifications, but 10 different categories of that, depending on what type of job it is and how much it is and all of this. And of course, sales tax, use tax, things along those lines.
Yeah, again, tax professionals. Make use of your local tax professionals.
That's right. Or your state's Department of Revenue website.
Dude, when I was running my small business, they were so helpful to me.
Yeah.
And they told me basically like there are certain things the equipment tax, they were like, here, you don't necessarily have to itemize everything. We can do a quick estimate for you, and you could just opt to pay that. So there are some ways, just that she was that helpful and super nice.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately helpful, nice. That was my experience.
Yeah, I think we're all scared, right? Because we all think if we call them, we're going to get in trouble.
Well, because if you don't know and you don't know, then I'm worried that I may have missed something or did it wrong. I mean, that's the thing, right?
One thing Alyssa said that I didn't put in here, but it's intent, right? A lot of times if you do get caught, then I think that's where you'll have to pay the tax liability. But I think that's will be a big determining factor in your penalties and interest is your intent.
Right.
Did you intentionally break the rules, or did you just not know? Did you try to do it right and you still, didn't? But and then the final thing, my final note for 2023 says, if you cheat the tax man, that can get ugly.
If you teach the tax man.
Yeah.
Have you ever by chance cheated the tax man? Do you
No,
have any?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, I had to ask. It sounded like it was from some place of experience.
I've heard.
This is Dunning-Kruger effect. You think you know more about cheating the tax man?
I don't think I know anything about cheating the tax man, actually.
I'm just goofing off.
I've heard some stories. There was a guy actually that when I first started as a helper, I was toter and fetcher on his truck. And he had, I guess, I don't know if he had his own company that he ran on the side or, something along those lines. But basically, he got caught not paying taxes. And I think they gave him a bill for like $100,000.
Yikes.
And this was back in like 2006 or 7 or something.
That's a lot of money back then.
Right. I mean, it was a lot different than it is today.
No, I'm just.
I mean, it's a lot of money today, but it was, different.
No, I'm just kidding.
And yeah, I mean, he was just a guy that ran one of our wood trucks, and I don't know how much money he made. Maybe $20 an hour or something like that. And I mean, you get $100,000 bill at $20 an hour, and you still got to live. So
that's heck. Wow, man, that's crazy.
Yep.
Well, let's wrap it up. It's time.
Let's wrap it up, man. We're done.
Yeah,
we made it through the stuff. We made it through the year.
I had some questions, but I held my questions, and I will just talk about it off camera. I can't remember what they are, so that's pretty cool.
Works out for me.
So thank you guys. wrapping up 2023. Looking forward to 2024. We are going to a trade show, and hopefully there will be another Vegas show. And
well, there will be. So we'll be at multiple. We'll be for sure at Fence Tech and at the Fence Show.
And our commitment to you is to talk more about selling commercial fence jobs, right? Is that it?
Yeah, we are going to tell you how to bid jobs. I promise.
Okay. That's the question. That is the eternal question. I know. Be scared of the tax man, but how gotta bid this job, Daniel?
Yep. How am I going to bid this job?
I want to extend a challenge to any of our listeners and viewers out there. I think we've unearthed 2 fantastic fence trade names. If you don't have any boys or girls, I guess children, I want to hear somebody have named their children. What'd you call them? Hold on, toter and fetcher. I want a toter and I want a fetcher born in 2024 in honor of PowerHouse Fence Show.
I was trying to
We're going to meet.
What are you supposed to call it?
I don't know. It's awesome. In 2029, we're going to see 2 5-year-old twin boys at the Fence Show, and they're going to be named Toter and Fetcher.
Yep. That's going to be great. And we're going to autograph their foreheads. Is that right?
Toter and Fetcher. I'm going to give them a job, or what do you do? Like, I'll give you some money, something. I'll give somebody $5 per child.
$5 per child?
Yeah.
Man, somebody might take you up on that.
I was gonna say you'd give them 500.
What?
You won't do it? To name their child Toter?
Oh yeah. if you can produce evidence that you legally named your child Toter
or changed Fetcher, your name. What if they changed their name?
Yep, I got 5. I got you. I got $500 for you.
I'm changing it, bro. It's gonna be Fetcher Shoe.
Fetcher Shoe.
Toter Shoe.
It should be Shoe Fetcher.
That's not the rules. Or is it? Any name? You change any name to Toter?
I guess. What if like 20 people showed up and they're like, I changed my middle name?
All of the guys from that fence company from out west. What was their company called?
What was that called? The one it was in California, right?
Dang.
I can't believe we don't remember. Yeah.
I want to call it like a ranch because they all dress like ranch hands.
I want to call it
ranch.
I don't even know what a ranch hand is.
It's my favorite word to
say.
Wait,
was it called? It was called ranch fence, wasn't it?
I thought it was called something ranch, but either way, those guys were cool as crap, actually. But it sure would be hilarious if all 19 of them who won all the $100 from putting showed up and said, "Hey, we heard your new challenge."
I don't know how they were all the best putters in the world.
All 19 of them
and started cleaning us out.
Yeah, we set up a putting green at the show, which we might not now since the ranch fence people. I think it's called ranch fence. I'm calling them ranch fence.
Yeah.
Super nice young dudes in early 20s, but we roll out a putting green and put out $100 bill. And if you stop the ball with, hit it with the putter, stop the ball on the $100, you get to keep it. And like 5 or 6 of those guys
somehow
killed
they were tearing it up.
like the only people.
Yeah.
I mean, so I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them to show up with a belt buckle on that says Toter and then win the $100.
So now they get 600.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know if we can afford the putt on account of them. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us this year. It's been fun. It's been cool. And we'll see you again next year.